Researchers at Boise State University are studying the effects that sagebrush has on the environment in the Great Basin and how it might aid in preventing future wildfires. 6 on Your Side's McKenna King is live in Boise and tells us what they found.
Sagebrush is a native plant in the Great Basin and a native plant here in Idaho, and those researchers say that as non-native plants like cheatgrass begin to grow, it increases the risk for wildfires. So what that means is we need sagebrush. Fire season, what once lasted a few months out of the year, continues to get longer across the western United States. But have you ever stopped to wonder why?
There is an invasive plant called cheatgrass that has introduced a new type of fire cycle into the sagebrush habitat.
Hot and dry, recipe for disaster when wildfire season rolls around. And another ingredient on that perfect fire climate list, lack of sagebrush.
Unfortunately, sagebrush is also increasingly threatened by wildfire and other disturbances.
As wildfires roar across the Great Basin, destroying native plants like sagebrush, invasive plants move in and change the fire cycle.
Historically, we used to have fires maybe on the order of several decades, and where these invasive plants have come in, we have a reduction in the fire cycle time to as low as a fire every 8 years in some places.
So Trevor and his lab studied the human impacts like fire and restoration on sagebrush, covering more than 200,000 square miles across the Great Basin.
It actually includes both the lowest elevation point, Badwater Basin in the continental U.S., and the highest point, Mount Whitney.
Ultimately finding that wildfires had comparable impacts on sagebrush to the effects of variation in elevation, rainfall, and temperature.
That introduces this problem that sagebrush is disappearing across the West.
Something Trevor says emphasizes the threat that changing wildfire frequency poses to ecosystem health.
The sagebrush on these hills are important for trapping water, so when it snows, the sagebrush make the water last in the soil for a little bit longer.
It's a native plant that stabilizes soil and increases that soil moisture, which helps in preventing landslides and other disasters. And some good news from that study is that sagebrush is positively impacted by restoration, and that's something the Bureau of Land Management has been working on for years, is reseeding populations of sagebrush. Live in Boise, McKenna King, 6 on Your Side.